Yep. Give me a nod when you're ready.
Like
Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Bullets and Bourbon. I'm Matt Gunlock, and I am not joined by my co-host Frank Gow today. He is currently en route to his move up to Annapolis, Maryland to join the staff there at the Naval Academy. But I had this episode, and me and the gentleman I have coming on were discussing, and I asked him, hey, do you want to come on? I really want to spread your message and everything. It's important to me. But tonight we have Michael Phillips. He's a retired Green Beret from 19th Special Forces Group, and he currently works in the financial industry as a day job. But more importantly, finds it especially important to help transitioning service members find purpose and employment after the service by volunteering his time for some great nonprofit organizations. Mike also splits his time by running Generation GWOT, an organization that uses marksmanship and physical fitness challenges to help active duty and veterans alike. Mike, before we get started, can you go ahead and give yourself an introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that I could possibly do a better elevator speech or an introduction than what you just gave me. That you hit the nail on the head. The only thing that I would add is that I'm a director within audit services at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I do not work in tax. I frequently get that question when people find out I work in accounting. I do not do that. I do on the audit side. That's the only thing I would amend.
Hell yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. So as we discussed, you volunteer your time with some great nonprofit organizations. Specifically, you're a mentor with FourBlock and also the American Corporate Partners. First, I know what these programs are, but I want the listeners to kind of get an idea of what they are. I've taken advantage of them, but what are these programs and why are they important for those service members looking to get out of the military?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best way to answer that question is to sort of frame it in what people are looking to get out of it or where they are in their transitioning, their transitioning journey at that point in time. FourBlock, that one is structured into a quarterly program where mentors and mentees will get together in sort of a classroom type environment. And the one that I was involved with in New York was weekly. And what we would do is speak. And the focus was on executive presence, presentation, the ability to speak in front of people confidently and articulately. Um, other areas that we deep dive would be writing resumes, making sure that they're professional and that they don't use any sort of military lingo, stuff that you and I would recognize and be impressed by, to be honest, but making sure that everything is consistent and fits neatly into a corporate American style box. And then one other piece that's extremely important is your elevator speech. And that's very quickly how you can introduce yourself in a manner that makes you either appealing to talk to or stand out as a potential candidate when you're speaking to a potential recruiter, or just in general if you're doing any kind of networking. It's a great way to break the ice. But American
Well,
Corporate Partners, oh, go ahead.
no, kind of on the whole elevator speech and talking in front of people, I think you would agree whenever you're first, in the military, it's always about the we. We are a team. We are doing everything together. But one thing that I know my mentor and my coaches told me is, hey, look, man, like the we is very important, and you do want to highlight that, but you also have to make it about me. You have to be selfish in this one instant and point out your accomplishments, which many service members do find very difficult to do because they have not been groomed in that fashion.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And humility, especially if you're coming from any sort of, if you've been in for a long time, or you've seen a lot, or you've had a lot of combat trips, or you're in certain groups within special operations, humility is one. It's like a cornerstone of your profession. And to speak about your achievements is taboo.
Mm-hmm.
So finding a way to obviously present that with humility, but make sure that they hear what you have to say at the same time. That's very difficult for a lot of guys to do. I completely agree.
But
But
you're going to talk about American corporate partners next.
yeah, so that's FourBlock, and that's great for transitioning officers. They do fantastic at FourBlock.
Which is kind of funny because like whenever Mike first started the program, he wasn't really just doing it for the officers, but he really wanted to focus on the enlisted because the enlisted ranks are the hardest ranks to really ease out of the military to find that job. But you've seen a lot of officers jump on that. I got lucky that I found Four Block. I was going through TRS at the time, and one of the majors, I was like, just him and I were bullshitting back and forth through the chat while in TRS. Like I got out right after the whole COVID thing, and whenever everything was, on computers. So him and I were just bullshitting back and forth, hating our lives in TRS. And he's like, dude, you need to check out Four Block. That is TRS on steroids. Check out American Corporate Partners, but like they will give you all the tools for success.
Yes, fantastic program. They kill it. Officers do extremely well, and I think that's the mindset. And a lot of enlisted don't shut me out. How do I present myself as an officer? That is the closest you can come to, okay, am I ready to present myself in this corporate environment to recruiters? What
Mm-hmm.
would they say? What would they not say? Very important. My teams have never heard me swear. They never will hear me swear because it's just a different
It's
culture.
taboo.
Yeah, it's different. But okay, so that's American corporate. Or excuse me, that's FourBlock. Now, American corporate partners on the other side. This one is very personal between a coach and a coachee, or a mentor and a mentee. And what that one is they'll pair you with someone generally in a similar industry or service that you're in, and you'll meet monthly if you can. If not, maybe every quarter. And this one is much more developmental, one-on-one. You have one coach, you have one coachee, and you're getting to know each other. You're understanding them, you're understanding where they want to go. Obviously, the more you put into it and the more vulnerable you're willing to be, the more you get out of it. And I've experienced that on both sides. I've experienced, okay, well, this person has told me what he's afraid of and what his weaknesses are, and we came up with a plan to how to address that. I mean, I'm not giving him his name, so I'll say it. He's terrified of public speaking. So I'm like, okay, great. Well, what we're doing now is helping you a lot. And then we talked about some other things that he can do in his community that are free, like Toastmasters, these basic clubs where you're expected to speak, and they're going to develop you to speak well. Uh, Little
Yeah.
things like just connecting those dots. Or if it's, okay, well, I want a business career, but I don't know which way I want to go. It's like, okay, well, I don't know everything. I'm an auditor. I'm a CPA for PwC. I don't know all those MBA routes, but I can find out where to look, and I can connect you with people who know. So he's leveraging my network, and I'm going to make myself and my network available to him. So that's really the goal of American Corporate Partners, is ultimately to mentor that individual until you have nothing left to give them. And you can, and either you continue on that journey together, or if he outgrows you, you connect him with someone else, and he's able to take advantage of your network and all the connections that you've made. And hey, sometimes that results in job opportunities. If it does, I mean, it's not necessarily what it's meant to, but if it does, that's great. If he if he maybe doesn't really progress and wants to drop out of the program, I've seen that happen as well. There's no mandatory success. No one's gonna. I'm not gonna call you up and yell at you. It's like, I'm gonna just say, hey, I'm concerned. Are you okay? And then it's like, oh, I've got family stuff going on. Okay, well, we'll reconnect with the program in 6 months or so, and we'll find you a different mentor. So we've seen success, we've seen potential future success, but it's a much more personal experience. And if any of the listeners feel like you're not qualified to do that, you'd be amazed how much you can offer a lot of these people. I've experienced ones who they have an idea of where they want to go, and I've had guys with no plan. They did 4 years, they're getting out, they're very young, they don't have much perspective, minimal experience, and a mentor who's in his mid 30s who has the majority of his life figured out and in a good place. Sometimes that's what they need. So don't underestimate your ability to give back and be a very professional, solid mentor to some of these guys.
No, yeah. I I developed a very good relationship with my mentor. He was a Bulgarian guy, and like immediately, like on that level alone, he and I kind of really um, connected just because one of my deployments, I was over in Romania and Bulgaria, and so we had, him and I would talk about Bulgaria. But then I wanted to get into the financial industry whenever I was first getting out. Like I was trying to figure life out per se. Um, I knew I wanted to get into project management, but I didn't have all the tools for success. And he was extremely helpful in kind of guiding me with changing the way I think from a military perspective to changing the way I am, uh, you know, in a corporate setting. And it really it gave me some good perspective on life in general. Now from FourBlock, me and my coach still connect every now and again. But what he did for me is he linked me up with a very good friend of his that works at Capital One, because that was another bank I really wanted to get into, and I almost got there. I got to the last interview, but then they decided to hire internally, which is fine. I think I'm in a very good spot now. But me and Lisa, we still talk. It's going almost 2 years now that I've been retired, but her and I still get together and talk every 2 months and just see how life for both of us getting. You develop those friendships, like, that's something you don't expect, and that's something I think is extremely important. The friendships that you develop along the way and the networks that are set forth. Because if I called Lisa up and was like, "Hey, I think I'm ready to take another stab at getting into Capital One or somewhere else. Can you link me up with a hiring manager, or with somebody within the organization that is looking for a position?" And she, at the drop of a dime, she would just do it. So I think that is something that's telling about these two nonprofits in and of itself, the people that they bring in to help out.
Absolutely. And that's the goal, because obviously every organization, every company has their initiatives like DEI, Black inclusion, the Women Inclusion Network. You know what I'm passionate about? Our military network. So
Yes,
you're passionate.
absolutely. Yeah.
Once you get on the inside, let's bring some more people in.
Well, it's, we're our own advocates. We know what we bring to the table. And unless you served in the military, you're not going to know what military service members bring to the table. We bring a lot of framework. We know how to organize, we know how to plan. We've been doing it our entire adult lives, where for a lot of other people, they've never been put in charge of large scale planning. And so they don't even know how to necessarily do that. But once you bring one of us onto the team, we can provide that framework and we can help build that plan out. And so I think that's extremely important in advocating for our own, group of people.
Yeah, that's huge. Like identifying like we lack structure in this whatever endeavor we have. It's like these are my experiences. I can draw on them and plug those in and be an asset right away to any team.
Yeah. But, kind of moving along, how do you manage your time between all these organizations and your own? And why is it important for you to be so involved with them?
In a word, poorly.
I get that. I do that the same. I'm the same way with this and everything else sometimes.
there's only so many hours in a day, and you've only got so much capacity for anything at a time. Um, I was involved with Memorial Three Gun for a while as their CFO. Great organization, by the way. Um, and I was getting to a point in my career and my civilian career and my Army career where it was too much, and I had to take a step back and actually help find my replacement. And that's incredibly important once you're in that role with that organization. How am I serving my mission and all my stakeholders? And if I'm not, I need to remediate this. And sometimes that means being very humble and taking a back seat, elevating someone else so that they can continue to find success with that organization. Um, for FourBlock, that one is relatively easy because my firm in New York actually hosts their events at their office. So I just change floors and then I go help out with them. American Corporate Partners, that one's also very easy because that's a monthly commitment. Or sometimes if I'm really busy, we'll do quarterly, or we'll do an hour call on a Saturday or something. These are very minimal commitments. Which are fantastic to mix in with whatever you've got going on in your life, and they're also flexible, so you can really do a lot.
Yeah, I kind of lucked out on the whole in-person four block. Um, like I said, post COVID, they were still doing everything remotely. And I mean, for me at the time, it kind of worked because I was balancing my time between, doing an internship at the FBI Academy, you know, and trying to figure life out, what I wanted to do. And so I was sat in front of my computer most of the time, just filling out applications or working on my resume. And what most people don't realize is your resume, like, one, that's your ticket to the interview, so you need to take your time. It's not the guarantee that you're getting the job, but it is the ticket to get into the interview. So whenever you write a resume, you need to take it especially important and hit all the key points. You need to have qualitative and quantitative data within your resume to where it's going to resonate within the organization that you're applying for. You can't just have words on paper. It has to be qualitative and quantitative. um and it you have to be able to speak to it. Don't embellish, don't lie. Just have good hard data that can speak to your accomplishments. And I think I spent probably close to 6 months, realistically, as other opportunities, presented themselves, a year developing a good resume. And for the military members out there, I would venture to say, have two resumes depending on what type of job you want to get. Have your military resume that shows your accomplishments, because if you're wanting to get into the contractor space, you're going to need to speak to that career and they understand military jargon. If you're trying to get into the corporate section, like Mike is in, you're going to have to be able to speak to that qualitative and quantitative data that's going to highlight everything that you're going to be asked to accomplish whenever you apply for that job.
Absolutely. Really, really good points. And one thing I would say even further is when you have, and this is something that FourBlock would teach, is have other people take a look at your resume. And
Yes.
you're a hard charging hitter. Who do you respect? I respect this other hard charging hitter. Do you know who needs to read my resume? Not that guy. I need a girl who has only ever worked in a nurse's office to read my resume. I need a middle school teacher to read my resume. I need a Jewish partner at a law firm to read my resume. I need the most diverse set of readers possible, so that I've got something that is accurate for for who I'm trying to get across to. Because when I've been involved in recruiting processes very frequently with my firm, I love doing that because ultimately the people that I hire are going to be working for me. And if we hire people that I don't want working for me, then I'm going to ultimately suffer. So I'm going to make my job easier and I'm going to be part of that screening process. I know who these people are that are screening. They are psychology majors. They're only ever one gender. So like guys, it's like your buddies are not good resources for you. Find
No.
Yeah, find some girl who you have nothing in common with. She is your best resource to perfecting that resume and making sure it gets past her. Because 100 resumes are going to come across her desk, and she's going to throw out 95 before they get to the next level.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this before we started. Whenever it comes to resumes, like don't expect somebody else to write your resume for you. Um, that resume is something deeply personal, and if you expect like your coach or mentor just to write it for you based off of the words you put on the paper, that's not how it goes. No, you have to that coach will red pen it and you will hate it, but it will force you to think about what you have on there and change it, which in turn allows you to speak to it more clearly.
Yes. And that red pen process allows you to internalize, okay, what am I sensitive about?
Yes. Yes. No, you're absolutely right. Because like whenever my mentor was like, yeah, this isn't important to this, you might as well just take that out. And I'm just like, did he just really say that? Like that's an important part of my life. And he just said, yeah, I don't care about this. Take that out. But it's true. It's like, what are you trying to convey to them? What do they care about? And it's that whole reverse psychology. We want you for this, not for that other shit that you did. Like that's in the past, man. Move on. Like be proud of what you did, but now you're going to be doing this.
Yep, great point. I had a teammate give me his resume. I marked it up for him, and he just like disregarded everything I said. I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
best of luck.
Well, it's funny because my coach at FourBlock, he and I talked a lot, and he was like, he told me he's like, man, you're 90% ahead of the power curve. He's like, I have this full bird colonel that I'm also mentoring, and this guy, just because I was a captain in the Navy, and he was no, my coach was a lieutenant in the Navy, and he was talking to a full bird colonel. That colonel was like, "Oh, you were just a lieutenant. What do you know?" And my coach was like, "I know a lot more than you about this corporate culture and what it's going to require for you to get a job. If you want to discount everything I have to say, fine by me, but you're going to have a harder time in life just, figuring out the job market."
Yeah, and then not to pick on this poor colonel who's now on a podcast that he didn't know about, but the lack of ability there, um, your civilian counterparts will sniff that out a mile away because they're going to give you lip service about your military career. Some guys will care, most probably won't, and
Nope.
if they can smell any pride coming off you for that, they're going to think different of you in the first place. So.
Oh yeah. So on that, I mean, how would you describe corporate culture versus the military culture in terms of success metrics that companies are looking for, and what can service members draw from their experience in the military and use that for future success in the civilian sector?
That is a very tough question, actually. It's going to take a while to break this one down. To start, I think the let me describe the past couple of weeks at work that I had. I was working. I've been working till midnight every night, and some weekends thrown in just to get these audit reports out. I've got a team of about 20 people under me in the U.S. and about another 20 in India. So I'm multinational team here, and I've got people calling in sick. I've got people who are logging off at 5 o'clock. I've got people not getting their work done. And the thing I would say that you can separate, or I could plug and play any person that I've ever worked with on my teams, and I know that none of those things would ever apply. You're going to be the last one to work. Calling in sick's not a thing. I mean, we work from home anyway half the time. It's like, what is calling? Oh, I'm sorry, you don't feel well. Well, I
Hmm.
guess you don't have to do your job. Uh, so something that you bring and that should be highlighted as much as you can, not necessarily on a resume, but when you get into that interview process, when you have the opportunity to sell yourself, is dedication to the task, whatever it is. I'm going to achieve that. If it kills me, that's the standard. Is I'm going to be the last one to leave. I'm going to make sure it gets done. I'm going to take complete and total ownership of the process, and even after it's done, to me, on the back brief when we're doing our AAR, which aka debrief, which is what we'd call it in a civilian world. But when you're doing your debrief, I'm going to take ownership of that. I'm going to take ownership of the entire process. The people, I was blessed to work in special forces for a long time, and people will lament the standards from dawn to dusk and say, "Oh, nothing is the same." My wife is not military. She meets my special forces friends, and the difference she sees in them from the average people that she knows is fun to observe because she just says they exude competence. And even though it's like, oh, well, they're only the top 2%, not the top 1%. Like this is a very competent breed of men who will not stand for anything less than a certain degree of success. And that is something that you it does not really exist in large parts of corporate America. There are small niches of maybe trading floors within finance, portfolio managers. Those guys cutthroat. But the majority of corporate America, the rough 95% of it, you will not experience the dedication that you or your average teammate could bring to the table there.
No, that makes total sense. And that's good to know. I think I think whenever we do come into the military, whether you're on the conventional side, whether you're on the soft side, you are given a certain set of skills, discipline, focus that most of America doesn't ever really learn growing up unless like they had a family member that raised them in that type of environment. They don't get those types of skills. Even your worst soldier, worst marine, when they get out, they're going to be better off than most other people because they still have a level of discipline. And one of the things I tell these young lieutenants that I teach today, I always try and bring some mentorship, bring that staff NCO leadership per se in perspective. And I tell them, I was like, look, whether you do 4 years here in the Marine Corps or you do a whole entire career, when you get out of the military, you're going to be so far ahead of your peers that you went to college with because of the level of discipline and the level of responsibility that you had to take on. And it's not just a monetary discipline, it is a life discipline because you are responsible for the lives of other people. And there's something special to be said about that because whether you like it or not, you have to care about the person. If you don't care about the person, then why aren't you that? Why are you there? Why are you in that leadership role? And the majority of them all care about the people under them. And, you know, without the people, you can't accomplish the mission. So you have to learn certain skills to really just drive that success.
Yep, absolutely. You've you're hitting the nail on the head with some of the intrinsic characteristics that any civilian employer could expect from hiring a military service member. Now, I think on the other side, because like we've highlighted like how awesome you guys are. Now there's the flip side of the coin.
Oh yeah.
Very, very important to bring the same situational awareness that you've carried throughout every deployment you've ever been on to the corporate environment. It's like identify what they do because you don't want to be a military guy in a suit. You want to
Yes.
be you want to be the corporate guy who happens to have a background that a couple people know about.
Yep.
No one will ever know about it unless they spend 30 minutes with you over beers and finally get you talking. That's when they can find out something about you. It's like all that military lingo, all that jargon, got to flush it. Well, excuse me. It depends on I mean, your environment. It's like use your situational awareness, be adaptable. And if you're in a situation where, hey man, you work for an optics company, like mounted on rifles, like you know what, they're probably going to like that. If you work
Yes.
in a legal firm, that might be one where we're gonna put that on the shelf. And we're going to make them work for it. They want to know about us. They're going to have to work for it.
And not to dog on civilians because that's not what we're doing here. But to show the flip side, you know, yes, we have a certain level of influence and confidence in our abilities. Self efficacy. We're confident in everything that we do. We can put our mind to a challenge and accomplish it. In the same respect, you have to respect the civilians who have never served because they are equally just as good in that position. Why? Because they've been doing it for so long. They have a certain level of skills. They have confidence in their abilities for what they're doing. And in many respects, there are some great leaders in corporate America who have never served in a day in the military and you can't knock them for that. Like they are successful in their own right and paved a path for themselves. And so, you can't be like, well, I did this. Who cares? You did that. It's in the past. Like, what are you doing now?
Absolutely. And you should always be the dumbest guy in the room. It's like,
Absolutely.
what? It's like, why do I want to be the dumbest guy in the room? It's because those people are going to bring you up. They let you into that room. They like you. They want to work with you. They want to be with you. They're going
Hmm.
to. So that's great. You find somebody who's a civilian, and he may not have some of the intrinsic skills that you have, the leadership capabilities that you've exhibited in your past. But you know what? He's an Excel wizard. He knows
Hmm.
how to value private equity companies with EBITDA metrics or forecasted revenue projections. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to teach you that because he likes you and because you present yourself to him in awe. Come from a place of humility where you want to be you want to connect on that level you were talking about earlier when you care about your people, when you care about the people that you work with. It's like fantastic.
One of the things I went to a retirement last Friday, and it's July 1st now. So it was, I think, June 28th. This episode comes out the day before Generation GWOT, which we're about to get into. But one of the things that was told to him growing up by I think one of the commanding generals was, Chip, you're a great guy. You know a lot of shit. You have two ears and one mouth. So listen twice as hard and speak only whenever I tell you you can speak.
There's a reason we have these ancient proverbs because
Yes.
they stood the test of time and
Yes.
generations.
Yes. Um, but kind of flipping into the three gun side now. Um, I really enjoyed this, and I hope that those that are listening really enjoyed the first half of this episode because I think it is extremely important. And I think it's important that we as service members do our part in trying to help the next generation of people getting out of the military. That's important. But, I want to get into some other aspects of what we do here on the podcast. And that's talk about three guns, the competitive shooting sports, and to really just enrich the lives of others. And not making the same mistakes as we do, and also show them the different opportunities that are out there to get involved in the shooting community. But before we start talking about some of that, let's talk about you. When did you get your start into three gun, and what got you into the competitive shooting sports?
I got my start in three gun when I was in the Special Forces qualification course at Fort Bragg in 2018. It's actually kind of funny. There was a fellow that I met. His name was Bryce Lamlin. He's the vice president of Memorial Three Gun. One of the most selfless, giving people that I've ever met. He wanted to bring me into the sport, and I had every excuse you could expect of a Green Beret trainee. I had pride. I had an expectation for myself of competence and excellence. And I had absolutely no interest in being bad at something, which is something I've seen across every team I've ever been on. Guys don't want to try something new until they understand it, they know how to be good at it, and they've tried it a few times. They're not going to do it in front of other people. Bryce made it absolutely impossible for me to say no. He would text me and be like, "Hey, let's go shoot," and I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't have any ammo. I don't have my guns." He's like, "I have all the guns for you. I have the belt for you. I have ammo for you. I've already entered you in the match. Let's go. So he dragged me to matches. And that's how I got my start. Was I had a friend who literally put me on his back and was basically my personal sponsor. And that's just the kind of person that Price is. He has something that he loves and he really cares about, and he wants to make sure that you love it as much as he does.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome that somebody took you under their wing, mentored you in that respect, and brought you into the fold against, we have one of the greatest communities within the shooting sports. I, there are a few like disciplines within what we do where are as a tight knit group that we are.
Yeah, no, it's extremely tight knit, and I think I've experienced that in some of the best ways when I'd go to a 3-gun match and I've got a rifle and I've got a pistol, and someone else will just give me a shotgun. I'll make
Yeah.
friends with someone in my squad, and it's not like, hey, I'm going to make friends with you so I can use your shotgun. It's like, hey, help. And they are more than willing to, like, you want a tube gun, you want an open box fed shotgun, AK-47 style, they're going to help you out and they're going to hook you up. And by the way, anyone who ever shoots a match with me, you can expect the same standard from me and literally every other 3-gunner.
Yeah, like you ask, oh man, my gun's down. I don't have a gun. And like everybody in the squad is just like, here you go. What do you need? And it's
Yeah.
not just one or two people. It's literally everybody on the squad because they want to see you go out there, have fun, do well, and just perform.
Yeah. Or they want to take a weapon that they just shot extremely well, give it to you, and watch you fail. Either one. It's one of the two. They either want to see you succeed. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's an amazing community of people who are incredibly generous, incredibly giving. And I'm excited to participate with Generation GWOT so that I can continue to advance that spirit of 3-gun.
So speaking on Generation GWOT and being a member of the military, understanding competitions, why are events like the one that you run so important, not just for the active duty service members, but even for the guys who got out?
Sure. Um, so this is a very multifaceted question. I think I'm going to start with the importance of having something to strive for. And you talked earlier about it, about I think we were chatting before we started, the importance of doing something really hard. Um, I was in a pretty tough place with work like a month ago, and it was just everything was coming down on me, and I had no way to blow off steam. I'd avoided. I didn't go to the gym properly in the mornings like I normally had for probably a week because I'd wake up at 6, I'd get to work, I'd be working till midnight. I couldn't get anything done. And what happened was obviously I started just deteriorating in terms of my performance and my feelings of like, okay, well, how am I going to rise to this next level? And it's like, I don't have the energy in the tank because I don't have what normally fuels me, which is driving towards success, the physical feelings of driving towards success, because you can't just be working. You can't just work at your desk for the rest of your life. You have to be achieving something. You want to be a bodybuilder? Fine. You want to be the best hairdresser in the world? Fine. Find something, have it a long-term goal, and then implement small measurable metrics within your life so that you can get there. For me, lifting weights was a huge part of it. That got messed up because of work. You know what I did? I called up a random club around here and I went and played two-hand touch rugby with them. I'm so injured that if somebody tackled me, I'd probably die, go to the hospital. But I was able to play two-hand touch rugby. And you know what I did? I bought a pair of cleats. And then I started, and then in the mornings, like before the sun come up, I'd go do my little moving around, little shuttle runs, trying to get my lungs working hard because I had just identified something that I'm currently not good at. And I've got to get better at it. That is the most important thing in the world to me right now, is to get slightly better than I was yesterday at this one thing. Okay, so that's answering just a tiny fraction of your question. This is a multifaceted question here. Now, let's 3-gun. Why is this so important to guys in and out of the military? Say you're out of the military. It's like I've had a lot of buddies that have lost purpose in their lives and made some tough, irreversible decisions. And there's always common themes. And I want to address one of those common themes. And I think that's a lack of long-term physical purpose. Like, what am I striving to achieve every day? What am I building my self-confidence in? What am I how am I delivering value to something greater than myself every day? And okay, so we've addressed that piece, but the sport of three gun, that's something that you are never going to be perfect at. You watch the top shooters in the world, and you shoot with them. And this guy, his score at the end of the day is 100, and he is perfect on paper out of 400 something shooters. And you were with him. You watched some things he did that were not perfect. It looked really perfect. It looked really good, but you know it wasn't. You are never going to be perfect. You always have something you can do better at. You always have elements of your game that you can improve on. And you're never going to be satisfied with what you just achieved, because there's always a higher standard. There's always something better to chase. You're if you achieve your goals, you failed. You're Sisyphus. You're in the seventh circle of hell, rolling that boulder up the hill, and there's no better place in the world to be, because you have a goal for the rest of your life and you're going to continue to strive for it. That's the best place to be. If you talk to a guy that doesn't have any goals, there's a big difference between him and someone who does. And I want to give that to as many people as I can. Maybe I'm sure almost everybody has goals, but this is one more that you can have. And I want everybody to have this in their toolbox. If they need it one day, they've got it.
No, that's that's a complete answer. And that is a tough question whenever you really dissect it down to its lowest element. But no, goal setting, I remember whenever I was a young Marine, corporal, sergeant, and the platoon commander would ask me, "What are your goals?" And they never really knew how to. When you just say, "Hey, what are your goals?" Um, if you don't teach people how to set goals, nobody's ever going to set goals. There's a clear deliberate process in identifying how you want to achieve certain things. So if you don't break it down for them, if you are not being that mentor that can help that mentee out and develop goal settings and common trends in figuring out how to set goals, then you're failing that person. So I think in this respect, that is a perfect setting, perfect venue to help develop people mentally and physically to establish trends in setting goals.
Yeah. And then the least of all of these things is, hey man, you're getting trigger time. So
Yes.
like a lot of these guys, they're active duty. It's like, hey, maybe this is a skill that you use for training, or maybe in real life one day down the line. And hopefully this is something that you can lean back on.
And I think, another aspect of this is, especially for that veteran community, which so often, whenever they get out of the military, whether they got out of the military with a good taste or a bad taste in their mouth, a lot of people just go back to their old hometowns and there's nobody else around there with common values, common mindset, or common experiences. So they get in this slump that, well, they don't keep in contact or communicate, but this is a perfect area where you can reconnect with people who are just as like-minded and have shared just about the same experiences.
Yep, absolutely. And sharing some of those experiences is a great time.
Oh yeah. Now Generation GWOT 3 gun isn't your typical match. How would you describe this type of match and what would you like your participants to get out of it?
Starting at the back end of the question, I think what I want my participants to get out of it is an introduction to the three gun community that meets the standard of what us three gunners expect. Um, I want them to have a very good time. I want them to feel confident, um, creating stage plans, walking through stages with various types of firearms that they're going to encounter, because a lot of us we're very comfortable with rifles and pistols, and a little bit less so with shotgun. So the goal is to get people comfortable, get people to a place where they will be able to enter a match confidently with their own gear, borrowed gear, and perform. Now, Generation GWOT's a little bit different because we aspire to provide all the ammo and all the guns. So guys can show up with nothing but shorts and Crocs on, and I'll give them a belt. I'll give them the guns they need, and we'll set them up for success as best as possible. And you're not going to find that in another match. You're not going to be able to pay $40 and get to demo Oracle Arms, or excuse me, OA Defense and American Defense firearms, and then have a good shot at walking away with a gun at the end of the day off a random draw that you don't even have to pay for.
No, that's awesome. And so you bring on staff to RO your matches that are experienced within the three gun community. They've been ROs, they've been around the sport for a long time. What is it that you kind of expect out of your staff whenever they're there?
Obviously, a safe, fun training environment is the standard, but it's more than just ROing. It's like we talk a little bit about a week before about what we're going to be looking at and walking through kind of the layout of the day and the timeline and the instruction for each stage. So each instructor / RO is going to have a stage assigned and a description of that stage so that they understand the key performance pieces of that. It's like, all right, if you're some stage, it's going to be only rifle, some stages only pistol, some stages bow, some stages will incorporate shotgun. So whatever they do as an instructor, the expectation is they're going to be getting people familiar with how to break down this stage, what firearms to use on the stage and when, and then how to set up their gear beforehand, because obviously you can't have guys taking 10 minutes every stage. You got to have the next shooter on deck. It's a process. But from the experience I had last year, these are some of the most competent instructors there are. A lot of them have military backgrounds instructing, or they're just professional three-gun shooters and some of the best in the state, if not the world.
No, that's awesome. And I do appreciate you asking me to come out there. I'm really looking forward to this. Like when you asked me, hey, do you want to shoot it or do you want to help instruct? And I'm just immediately, I was like, I want to instruct. Like there's nothing better than just going out there and trying to help a group of people. And I enjoy that aspect of it. If I can help anybody, that's what I like to do.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up. Actually, we had a guy who was signed up to shoot, and he messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I can RO / instruct." And he was one of our shooters last year. So the process is working. I have one person who's indicating this is a success because he's gone from an introductory level last year to now he's going to be instructing others a year later. So that's the growth that I want to see in this sport. I want to see guys stepping up and taking ownership of their sport, their friends, their military, the whole thing.
No, that's awesome. And kind of to add on to this, what can participants of this year's match expect to be challenged with?
Well, rifle is everyone's pretty competent with their rifle based on my observations. I think the shotgun piece is that gets people. We're going to structure everything in such a way that it's not going to be designing failure. I know we talked earlier about the importance of failure. The failing in this match is not one of the it's not one of those places. We're going to be setting you up for success to break down new elements of stages and targetry in a manner that is digestible, something that you can build on for the future. There's going to be, I think we're going to be doing 5 stages. I'm a little bit, we're making some adjustments or considering some adjustments right now because we've got 50 guys signed up, but 20 waitlisted, and I'm not going to be telling people that they can't come shoot if they want to come shoot. I might just have to not provide ammo to the guys that are waitlisted because I've only got so much. But They're going to have their ammo provided for when they show up to meet the round count. If obviously you're throwing rounds everywhere, you have to take care of that yourself. But you're going to have American Defense. They're bringing out all the rifles for this match for you guys to demo. Incredible company that they heard about this last year and they said, "What do you need?" And they showed up with 10 American Defense UIC2 rifles and let guys have a great time. OA Defense came on this year, and they're providing all of their 2311 pistols. So I personally have not even shot one. I'm really looking forward to doing that in 2 weeks with the SIG lower and the 2011 upper combo. I'm looking forward to that.
No,
But
that's awesome.
yeah, there's going to be red dots on every pistol. There's going to be LPV Vortex LPVOs on every rifle, probably some 45-degree offsets as well. So guys are going to have the best gear that money can buy to start out. And then for as far as shotguns, my personal dissident, and then we're collaborating with some other guys to bring in some dissidents as well. So
I'll bring
you
mine down.
excellent. Yeah, we're gonna have a dissident party. Like these guys are gonna be they're gonna be very spoiled in terms of their because normally you don't get it this good. But like
No. Yeah, I'll bring all my stuff down for that.
and then at the end, like we've had some really, really cool sponsors come on and they hear a little bit about this, what we're trying to do, and they say, I want to support that. Like IWI came on, Obsidian Arms, American Defense, Safari Land, Vortex, and all they want is to give stuff to guys who are brand new to the three gun community and get them involved in the sport, especially military or veteran guys. So it's like all the credit to them. And like this costs these dudes nothing. It's gonna be random draw. Hope a lot of you guys leave with guns.
Hell yeah. So last year you had 63 total participants that were either active duty or veterans and were new to competition. 40 of those were both from either the Army Special Forces and MARSOC. What are the numbers this year looking like?
Well, I expanded it slightly to 50, and that 63, it became a crisis at the very end that I had to deal with because we planned for 40, and then we had too many people sign up, and I will never turn anybody away. So I scrambled to accumulate and gather more ammo. This year, I might have to just be like, all right, guys, gotta go buy your own ammo. It's the standard here. We'll give you the guns, but um, we've got we got 50 guys squatted, ready to go. I'm going to be probably expanding the wait list so that I can get these guys pulled into a squad as well. I think I'll have to throw in a PCC stage or something and just let them run loose. So we'll have another squad rolling. But I don't have the breakdown. I don't actually ask people when they sign up what their military affiliation is beyond active or veteran, just because that's probably sensitive information that I don't need to possess. But we'll take a straw poll at the event, and we'll get those numbers on the back end.
No, awesome. No, yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. I think they're going to learn a lot. But as far as your organization, everything starts out small. And last year was the first year for Generation GWOT, and Generation GWOT was at one point just an idea. But that now that you're on your second year, where are you looking to take it? And are there any aspirations to grow and make it bigger, or keep it as what it is and always meant to be?
Yeah, that's another really tough question because I think when we're speaking about the importance of an organization, you have your mission, you have your stakeholders, which in this case, our stakeholders are it's our sponsors, it's the participants, it's the staff, it's Zoo City Armory who host and provide massive support to us, and in some ways, it's even the military. How if I scale this, am I going to be able to deliver the same experience? And if I scale it too early and I'm unable to deliver on our mission, then I've failed at a greater magnitude than if I kept it small and continue to deliver very small success. Um, I think we have some challenges right now. Mainly that's we have a bit of a key man risk, you might say, because we're
Mm-hmm.
we're not a very diversified organization with a lot of support. Um, we have critical sponsors and support, whether it's myself or Jason at Zoo City and Snappy at Zoo City, um, Tom at American Defense and his significant contributions, Oracle OA Defense and what they do. You take out any one of them, and I start having to scramble. So there's difficulty with scaling, but there is potential for it, and the potential is exciting. But like anything, it's like you have to consider your stakeholders and can I deliver the same value at scale as a smaller level? So I think that's a really half answer, but it's the best information that I have right now. Um, we are continuing to evaluate the best way forward to potentially scale this in the future. It may happen, it may not. I hope it does. It'd be awesome to if we were able to get some sort of military link here to grow this because that would scale it immediately. But obviously, there's a lot of red tape, and and then you potentially lose control of what would make this really good, which is the three gun community, and this being a grassroots. Having its grassroots impetus from the great shooters within the three gun community, because those guys really make this happen as instructors.
Absolutely. No, but that is all that I have now. But before we sign off, do you have anything that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, if you don't shoot three gun, it's a great sport. It's a great opportunity. I've met some incredible people and some really good friends through it. I'm always developing new skills and identifying new ways to train and refine those skills. And if the first half of the conversation interested you at all, I'm always happy to review resumes and mark them up. That's something that I'm always willing to do, especially for any of our military service members that are transitioning out of the military and into the civilian workforce. Very happy to provide whatever level of coaching or mentorship that you require.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. I think this was a really good conversation on both sides of it between the nonprofits that you're involved with, FourBlock, American Corporate Partners, and on the Generation GWOT side. I'm looking forward to seeing you out there and just hanging out at the match. And listeners, if you have any questions, if you have anything that you'd like to ask Mike, I'll have his contact information in the show notes and let you reach out to him. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this and have a great night.